Timothy is on his mission to find Rufus and Alexander, the sons of Simeon and Niger, to tell them that their father had died. So I was the bearer of unhappy news to men I'd barely met, and a little girl led me. I was the one who frightened people by knocking on doors in the night. Alexander, when I told him of his father's death, went in to wake his family. Rufus had no family to wake. He didn't even shut his door. He dashed through the streets as fast as he could to his father's house. By the time the maiden and I returned, Paul and Rufus had moved Simeon's bed onto the marble floor of the atrium near the fountain. The sheets had been stripped. The bare wooden frame held the dead man's body, also stripped of its outer clothing. A loincloth covered its nakedness. Simeon's wife was washing the poor bony corpse with water and sponges. The old man's white woolen eyebrows glistened with droplets. As soon as he saw us enter, Rufus asked the maid to bring fresh sheets and clean cushions and Simeon's best robe. Paul fluttered around like a leaf on the breezes. "Where's olive oil?" he asked. He said, "Incense? Do we have incense and myrrh?" He said with force, "We will not grieve." Paul repeated this thought, though to no one in particular. "We must not grieve as those who have no hope," he said. "Jesus died and rose again. Simeon Niger will rise again." Piteously, Paul said, "Rufus, can we find myrrh at this time of the night? Does someone we know have aloes?" But there was myrrh already mixed with unguents, already in flasks and handy. It was applied directly by the hands of Simeon's family, giving his old black flesh its gloss again. It darkened the chalky pallor. It filled the air with a pungency that caused my nose to run. And again I was reduced to the child in Lystra who stood confused by his papa's body. Rufus lifted his father in his arms so that his mother could pull the clean tunic over the dead man's head. The bed frame was covered with clean sheets now. The body was arranged with the arms at its sides, its head on a cushion, its feet toward the door. And people began to arrive. Not just Alexander and his family, others. The word had spread abroad. Believers came in weeping. 2 women sat down in a corner and blew on flutes, the melody weaving sadness in the air, piercing our souls. Flowers torn to petals were scattered around Simeon's bed on the white and black squares of the marble floor. The fountain flowed with fresh water, and dawn was lighting the sky above the atrium. Morning was coming down to earth. As more and more people came into Simeon's house, I withdrew to the wall beyond the atrium, to a corner farthest from the entrance hall. In grief, we yearn community, truly, but the same grief cuts us off. We know both things at once, love and isolation. I can't explain it. It's like drunkenness, like floating above the people, above dear friends who are also strangers with featureless faces. Suddenly, Paul was beside me. He seized the flesh of my upper arm and pinched it painfully. "We're running out of time," he said swiftly, softly, precisely, earnestly. He wasn't looking at me. His small eyes were fastened on Simeon Niger, lying black on white sheets in the atrium. Paul's shoulders were rounded with intensity. Beside me, he seemed monkey-like, crouched smaller than usual. "Timothy, we have so little time. Not that Christ is coming soon, but we're dying soon. If ever I had a home on earth, this was that home. But look at him. Look at him. Oh, Timothy, look at him. Simeon Niger is dead." The tall, bald man who had berated Paul in Peter's cave now entered the house by ducking his head. He joined the line of mourners that filed into the atrium. I was surprised to see tears. When he looked down on Simeon's body, his chest heaved, and I felt a sudden sympathy for him. Paul pinched my arm. Simeon was there when the Lord Jesus died, he said. This is the man who made me understand the cross of Christ. By Simeon's eyes, I saw the tree and no other way. Look, Timothy, look at his face. His eyes are closed. His seeing has become a dust. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Paul said, pinching so hard I gasped. The time is short, the world is wide, and I'm weak. I am so weak. Titus entered. The man beside him, I took to be his father. That man joined the sad processional, but Titus saw Rufus and ran through the crowd and fell upon his neck and howled. So then Rufus was patting Titus, saying, "There, Titus, there." People were sitting on benches, on cushions, on the carpets that covered the floor. They were standing in the dining rooms, kneeling in various groups side by side, sitting even on the dining room tables, waiting, both alone and in close company, waiting. Some of them singing under the keening of the flutes, most of them silent. Heads bent down, waiting as if something were about to happen. Waiting, keeping vigil. Stop there for today.